All right, I think we can kick this off. Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Sean Kerwin. I am the programs chair for SAMI Mid-Maryland. To start, we're just going to get a few housekeeping items out of the way for this virtual event. For those that are new to the group, the Society of American Military Engineers is comprised of 30,000 professionals representing the uniformed services as well as numerous state, local, and federal government agencies, nonprofit associations, academic institutions, and private sector firms, all working to guide the future of the AEC profession and its contributions to the protection of our nation. The SAME mission is to build leaders and lead collaboration among government and industry to develop multidisciplinary solutions to national security infrastructure challenges. Our vision is to serve our nation as the foremost integrator for leadership development and technical collaboration within the AEC profession. If you would like more information on becoming a member of SAME, please connect with us through our website at same.org/MID-Maryland. We're excited to have everyone today. We have a great presentation planned for you. The presentation should be about around 30 minutes or so. Then we'll go right into Q&A.
No, show the very front.
And during the presentation, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat box as they come up. Everyone can just mute real quick. From mute. Cool. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put in the chat box. What I'll do is I'll record them throughout, and we'll do a little Q&A at the end. Now I'm going to kick it over to the NSA team and Jim to give an overview of the presentation today, as well as introduce the key speakers. Jim?
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here speaking with everybody today. As you said, I'm going to brief on some upcoming projects we have here at the National Security Agency. My presentation, as I go through, I'm going to give a brief overview of installations and logistics, and then I'll run through some of the project things that we're working on currently and things that we have coming up in the future. When I'm done, Mr. Scott Jackson will go through how to do business at NSA. So a lot of what we do, as you'll see, is relying on getting in the system. So Scott will cover that when I'm done, but just a little bit on myself. Like I said, I'm the Chief of Facilities Operations at NSAW. I've been an agency employee almost 32 years now. Civil engineer, graduated from the University of Maryland, and I have spent pretty much my entire career in facilities, in installations and logistics. So it's something that I'm really passionate about. Important to get it right to me. So things like this, it's always a great opportunity to come out and talk to folks, to get new folks into the door, network with some folks to hopefully get things, keep things going from what we started and continue to go forward in the future. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start just a quick agenda. Like I said, I'm going to first give a quick overview of installations and logistics, what installations and logistics is, what they do. I'll talk facilities operations. I'm under facilities operations, what we do and how we operate and where we operate. I'll talk about some of the types of projects we do, methods for how we execute these projects, and then I'll give some insight into some upcoming efforts that we're going to have here over the next couple of years. So installations and logistics, as you see, I'm under installations and logistics under facilities operations, the middle block in the orange. Installations and logistics is responsible for the planning, design, engineering, building, executing, maintaining facilities across a global footprint, in addition to the providing logistical services across the global footprint. The reason I show this slide here is we execute things out of multiple offices. I'm at the office level, so I just wanted to hit real quickly on a few of the offices and what they do, just to give you some insight into that. Master planning, pretty self-explanatory. They set us up for everything we do. So we follow the requirements of master planning, and then we execute what master planning pushes out to us. Our military construction office, the chief is Matt Bourne. They do all military construction. So any big military construction project we're doing, either at NSAW or outside of NSAW, is the responsibility of the MilCon office. All of those efforts go through the Army Corps of Engineers. They do not go through the Maryland Procurement Office. Facilities operations, I'll touch on that in the next couple of slides, so I'm just going to skip through that. Logistics is just what that is. It's all the logistical services that INL does here at NSAW, as well as out in the field at the cryptologic centers. And then the extended enterprise operations. So I'm going to show you in a minute my area of responsibility. Extended enterprise basically does the same thing outside of my area of responsibility. So we have a lot of shared things, a lot of common things. And as I'll show you later, to get into the how do you do work with not only facilities, but the extended enterprise, it's the same avenue to get in to do work there. So facilities operations, like I said, we're here at NSAW. We cover NSAW and a 50-mile radius outside of NSAW headquarters. Footprint is about 11 million square feet, 7 million owned, 4 million in the lease on the lease side. We're growing super fast as we continue to build our East Campus, so that the amount of owned facilities continues to go up. The amount of square foot that we need to operate and maintain continues to go up. We have facilities that were built back in the 50s, a bunch of facilities built in the 80s, and now that we're building our East Campus, we have a bunch of new facilities here on our campus. So there's a lot of things that we're doing within our buildings, a lot of projects, a lot of operation and maintenance type things we're doing, and we're going to continue to do over time. And then you also see there, we have about 500 acres here at NSAW in Fort Meade that we're responsible to operate, maintain, design, and engineer and construct. Within facilities operations, we have three large divisions. We have a design and engineering division, project execution, and an operation and maintenance division. All three of these divisions we execute work out of. We have, from a design and engineering standpoint, we have in-house talent that we utilize to do designs and engineers. We also contract out a lot of the design and engineering type projects that we do based on the skill sets that we have in-house or we don't have. We'll leverage contracts to do that. All of our execution of projects is done under our project execution team. Yearly, we're going to complete roughly 300 to 400 projects out of our project execution team of different size and magnitude. But everything we do here at NSAW that's non-MilCon within the 50-mile radius is executed from our project execution division. And then within our O&M division, which is actually our largest division, that's where we have all of the BOSS contract, our grounds maintenance type contracts all fall under our operation and maintenance. They're responsible not only here for the owned facilities, but also the leased facilities. We have oversight into them. We don't actually do the work. A lot of work there most of the work there is done through the Corps, but we do have oversight on anything out in the lease world as well. Some of the types of projects we do, I kind of broke them down a little bit. A lot of what we do is renovation type projects of different magnitudes, large or small renovation projects. We do a lot of slab to slab renovations within our buildings. We do auditoriums, we do bathrooms, conference rooms. We'll do anything as small as a small office, which could be a couple $100,000 project, up to large core renovations, which is upwards of 30, 40 million. So we do a lot of projects, anything that's not new construction within our buildings. We do it, we execute it out of our projects execution team. And like I said, it's a high volume of projects that we do within our buildings. One of the things that makes, and I'm sure a lot of contractors are familiar with this, is we do this in buildings that are occupied. So it's the environment that you work in here is a little bit different. It can be a little bit different. It's important to keep the lights on, keep the buildings cool. So, as we go through these projects, there's a lot of measures we put in place to make sure we maintain the building and the power and the cooling to the building. Infrastructure projects, we do pretty much anything that needs to be replaced. This is some of the data that we get of what we're going to replace comes from our master planning team. So we look at the facility condition index. We have a list of projects that we're going to do that we know we need to do. We program money to do those things, and then we design and execute those things in the appropriate year to keep things functioning as they should function. All the large major components of buildings, cooling towers, chiller, secondary substations, crack units, that's all executed out of our infrastructure project team. And operation and maintenance, we're going to do anything on campus that it takes to operate, maintain the facility. That's going to be done out of our operation and maintenance team. Buildings, grounds, roads are the things that are under their area of responsibility. Not only that, like I talked about as well, the oversight of the lease falls within the O&M team. Some of the methods we use for execution. Obviously, we compete a lot of projects. Most of the renovation projects, depending on the size and complexity, we're going to compete these projects. The infrastructure projects will also compete those. Some of the contracts we have in place. A few years ago, we put in a contract called Blackjack. We utilize Blackjack for large renovation type projects or large electrical, mechanical infrastructure type projects. I believe we're in the second year of our Blackjack contract. And we continue to utilize them to do a lot of our larger things. And we have a facilities engineering contract we call our FEC contract. This is what we use to supplement our design and engineering staff. Like I said, we're going to do anywhere from 300 to 400 projects a year, high volume number of projects. So as we get to a point where we saturate our design and engineering team, we have a FEC contract in place that we leverage to provide design and engineering support. And also when size and complexity of the projects matters a lot. So they do a lot of work for us. And these are all projects that we push out through the Maryland Procurement Office to construct. We have a tech services contract, we call it. This provides resources for areas where we might be thin. So we leverage them for a lot of design and engineering type resources, engineering, electrical, mechanical engineering, ICS support, schedulers is what we utilize from there as well. We have a furniture contract with Steelcase. I believe it's close to being competing. It may be out for a compete now, but Steelcase is our current furniture manufacturer. Our base operating support contract, our BOSS contract, currently is Chugach Government Services. This is a large contract that for here at NSAW for the 7 million square feet to operate and maintain. Along with that, there's a lot of work we do underneath our BOSS contract. We write a lot of technical task orders. We do have other small contracts that we let through our base operating services contract to get work done that we need to. And there's 3 components to our base operating support contract. There's the operation and maintenance piece of that is the first part. The second part is a dock contract. So we do have a dock contract that's part of the BOSS contract. And then the third part of that is logistics support. So all of the support that we have towards our logistics organization is through this base operating support contract. A few other small contracts that we have. We don't roll everything up into our BOSS contract. We've separated out our custodial services contracts. We have 2 of those. We have one here at NSAW. We have another down at our FANX complex. So there's 2 of those. And then we have our grounds maintenance contract, and that's just one of those. That's for here at NSAW and for the FANX complex. Some upcoming efforts that we have in the near future, and when I say near future, probably within the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, these projects are going to hit the books. This is just a small list of some of the things we have coming. Like I said, we're going to do a lot of projects throughout the year, a lot of interior type, customer type projects that I've listed at the bottom, but we do have some big cooling tower projects coming up, some roof replacements, some chiller plants, PDUs, crack unit replacement type projects that we're going to be soliciting over the next couple of years that you'll see hitting the books. And then the last thing on this is the customer funded projects. So each year we get internal customers that send us money to do projects within our buildings. A lot of this is interior office renovations, and it's a high volume number of those as well. So those will be hitting as well. Some of the keys, one of the things that Scott's going to talk about is how to do business at NSA. So everything we're talking about today, all the projects we do here at NSAW go through the Maryland Procurement Office. And in order to get business through the Maryland Procurement Office, you got to be registered in the ARC. So one of the things I'll leave with today is the most important thing you can do is register in the ARC. If you're not in the ARC, you're not going to get business at NSAW through the Maryland Procurement Office. So it's critically important to do that. And Scott will go through how you do that in a little bit. I believe he has some websites that you can refer to how to do that. But no matter what you do, most important thing from today is to understand you got to register into the ARC. It gives you insight into what we're doing, gives you insight into what's coming down the road, and this is how we're going to solicit projects at NSAW. And with that, I just opened it up for questions. At this point, I think what I'll do is turn it over to Scott. I think, like Sean said, there's a chat room available. If there's any questions, please just send the questions. We'll get to those once we're through the presentation. And then the other thing that I'll offer up as well, and you know, working with our B group partners, we typically offer up capabilities briefs for folks to come in. So if there's anybody interested who hasn't come in the past, you know, one of the things we want to do is make sure we network, make sure we bring in new talented folks to do work here at NSAW. So please reach out. We'll set up some capabilities briefs. We'll bring in for my office as well as the B group office, the business group office attends those as well. So it's a good forum to get in, to understand what we do. We like to hear what you're doing as well. So this is a good place to enter in. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott and then look forward to answering any questions that you have.
Hello, everybody. Scott Jackson. I run the Office of Small Business Programs here at NSA. So yeah, I'm going to run through how to do business with us in a nutshell. I have this intro slide here, and the reason I leave it is it refers to our pathway to success. We have a whole briefing on that subject. That's in its full length is probably 2.5 hours. All my slides basically are a subset of that slide deck. But I encourage you, it's not a requirement to do business with us, but I encourage you to attend a Pathway to Success. It does require registration, though at the moment they're all virtual, which is brand new to us, right? They've always been in person. But at the moment they're all virtual, starting up again in September, but does require registration, and you do that through the ARC, and we can talk a little bit more about that as we get there. That was too far. So contracting in NSA. The first two bullets just tell you, listen, we are a federal agency, therefore we follow the FAR, and we are a defense agency, therefore we follow the DFARS. That's somewhat where the similarity ends, however, because for everything we do, we claim 2 national exemptions. The first one says we don't have to publicize our procurement information. And the second one says we don't have to do full and open competition. So we do other than full and open competition, which of course means less than full and open competition. It does not mean we don't compete. It means we can invite companies. They are not full and open. So the bottom line to those 2 exemptions are that none of our stuff shows up on FedBizOpps or now SAM.gov. As Jim said earlier, our stuff instead goes through our ARC, our Acquisition Resource Center. And in order to view those, you must register in the ARC. And I will discuss more details of the ARC here as we go forward. These are our generic slides out of the pathway. So some of the stuff is possibly less applicable to the INL world, but still true overall. That most of our opportunities are classified and therefore require top secret facility clearance in order to participate, not once awarded. You have to have one to participate. If it's a classified requirement, then that means people will require clearances and possibly access to a secure facility. Of course, you're doing construction in our space. You're using our space, not your space. Jim also talked about there are other locations beside NSAW, NSA Washington. We have the cryptologic centers elsewhere, but the process for contracting is generally the same all through the ARC, et cetera. I did want to pause and say the security clearance issue here is different for the INL crowd for probably most of the attendees today. On whole, the agency puts about, I can't talk dollars, but in percentage, about between 75 and 90% of our contract dollars go on classified contracts. INL is a little bit better than that. They are probably between, I just looked this up, I think 30 to 50% of their money goes on unclassified, as opposed to 10 to 25 the other way. So a little bit better to be able to do some unclassified work in the INL realm. Small business performance, this is how we do as an agency. Those are by years. And in FY19 looks like a fantastic year, right? Everything was green except for service disabled. And that's true. However, FY20, I would argue, is pretty good itself. Some of the red there, the only one that really went down was our overall small business number to 22.7. All of the other numbers went up. But if you notice, the goals changed. Like for the small disadvantaged business, that's red because our goal changed. Just meant a change in leadership at DoD Small Business Program Office. They're the ones that set our goals, and a change in leadership changed that goal. But overall, we went up. And I wanted to also share then how our performance in small business looks with installation and logistics, because they pretty much lead the agency almost across the board in our performance in small business. As you can tell, there's a lot more green on this chart. The only place they need help in is HubZone, I'd say, which is hard for all of us. But I just wanted to be able to share that piece with you. There's a little bit of good news there. So getting started, a contractor's first work at the agency is rare for someone's first work to be a prime contract. And that's driven, of course, by our requirement to have a facility clearance, because it's the chicken and egg problem there. You can't get a facility clearance without a contract. You can't get a contract without a facility clearance. So the way to do that is subcontracting. A prime contractor on a classified contract can sponsor subcontractors for facility clearances. The exception, which applies to this audience, there are some unclassified contracts, including INL, decent amount of unclassified contracts in that arena. However, in a previous job of mine, I supported INL, and I've had this conversation with the current head of INL, where I still, and this is my humble opinion, would encourage if your first work, even unclassified, I would not recommend priming my first work at the agency. Besides clearances for the rest of the world, even in an unclassified environment, you guys have no idea until you work here what the environment is like. Someone should mute themselves, it sounds like. For instance, you got to get a truck in every morning. There have been times in the past, I don't know what the timeline is these days, but that could have been an hours-long process. You also probably have to get escorted wherever you go if you're inside the building. So nothing will run as efficiently as you think it would. In addition, Jim talked about keeping the buildings running while you guys are working, which also is going to impact your efficiency. So I would be weary of coming in and winning my first prime effort. I would be scared if I was the prime, if I did that. I would say, yeah, I won. Oh crap, I won. But again, that's my humble opinion. There's no requirement for that. So the ARC, NSA's Acquisition Resource Center, there's the website. Also, you don't need to write that website down. The only website you really need to remember is nsa.gov. There's a Doing Business With Us tab there, and it goes through everything we can share in a public forum is there, including how to get to the ARC, a link to that pathway briefing, things like that. So I encourage you to check that out. The ARC is a lot of things. It is our one-stop source for anything related to acquisition and our industrial base. Those bullets there, I will talk to each one of those in the coming slides, except the bottom one. It is a physical facility. These days, less important than previously. We would hold our Pathway to Success briefing used to be held there when it was an in-person thing. But it is still important that you know it is a facility in Hanover. I think it's on Candlewood in that area. Because if you ever submit a proposal to us, I believe we're still requiring hard copy delivery of proposals. And when we do, they are required to be delivered to the ARC. But the rest we'll touch one at a time. So we do our market research via the ARC. The ARC exists in several forms. It's accessible via the internet to contractors. I can only see it on our classified network, but they magically sync up, and that's how we look at the ARC, and we can find contractors for whatever requirements we have. We would use keyword searches for generator repair or construction, new construction, rehab, etc. We use NAICS codes and small business attributes to find the companies we're looking for. What we were searching when we do that market research is your company profiles. At the moment, there's about 10,100 companies, I believe, registered in the ARC. You first must be registered in sam.gov. When you start your ARC registration, the first night after you start that, the ARC goes out and gets all your information from SAM and imports it to the ARC. And then you can finish up the registration the next day, but it's got all your corporate information, small business attributes, NAICS codes that you want to include. And for those, you are allowed up to 500-word description per NAICS code. My advice there is please do not cut and paste those. For each NAICS code, your description should describe the work you do in that NAICS code. I can't tell you how many companies are registered that have the same exact paragraph pasted 15 times for each of their NAICS codes, and that's not helping you and it's not helping us. In addition to those descriptions, you have an overall company capability statement for another 500 words, and points of contact. And the bottom bullet there is update and maintain your company profile, your contact information, and a word of warning there is the ARC emails you information, possibly more than you'd want. And if your point of contact leaves, you no longer get those. So you have to keep that maintained. Make sure your email accepts emails from us. We have heard many times of I don't get anything from the ARC. Make sure it's set to accept because it's coming from a .net address, not a .gov or a .com. We post unclassified procurement information there. So the information posted is unclassified or unclassified for official use only. That means it cannot be publicly disseminated. So it's for people's use in the ARC only, or for your use in for your company only. In order to access that information, however, you must get a public key infrastructure certification, PKI. That's the only thing that costs anything. Like SAM registration is free for the government. ARC registration is free for the government, except if you want to get any information from us, you got to get a DoD PKI. The ARC has information posted there about what PKIs certificates are required, and they are very helpful in getting you set up with those PKI certificates. The first step in a proposal process for NSA is market survey. So when Jim's organization has a requirement, they do the market research and identify a whole bunch of companies. Based on that criteria we discussed, right? Keywords, NAICS codes, maybe small business attributes. And we will prepare a market survey and send it out to those companies. It also gets notification of that market survey also gets posted in the ARC as an announcement. So you would then receive an email that says this market survey is there for your use. If you'd like to respond to it, you can download it, answer the questions, and respond to it via the ARC. The way we determine who's going to get that RFP is based on the market survey responses. As I said, it gets posted. An announcement that the market survey exists does get posted. So if you weren't invited, you can see that announcement and ask for the market survey. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you can ask for it. I would say the majority of the time, if you ask for a market survey, you will get them. There are instances where you will not. Sometimes there could be classification issues, even in the ultimate contract, even if the market survey was unclassified. Or we could have already decided that it's going to be a small business set aside and you're a large business, or we decided it was a hub zone set aside, for instance, and you're not a hub zone. So some of those times it could be denied, but generally they'll give it to you. But you have to respond to market surveys if you want to participate in prime contracts with the agency. It's basically the only way in. If you're interested in subbing it, it doesn't hurt to look at market surveys, because then when you are talking to other contractors for potential subbing opportunities, you'll be more educated on what we need. So it's still a good source of information. It's a communication tool. Again, it's the means we use to communicate with our industrial base. So besides market surveys and invitations for RFPs, any event that we are going to host gets announced through the ARC. Any policy updates and agency news. During COVID, lots of announcements were being sent out through the ARC, both for who's coming to work, who's invited in, restrictions on staying home, who can work from home. I think we even had some Maryland and SBA news for loan programs, et cetera. And I skipped business and technical forecasts. I'm not sure we're doing many technical forecasts these days, but we have that opportunity. Business forecasts are quarterly. Our contracting organization updates what they think are the agency-wide contracts that are coming out for the next year or two, just like INL would be one piece of that forecast, but they're updated quarterly. Generally because of the security requirements, networking is the key to success. Always think the networking with industry groups is more important than networking with government people, because you need them a lot, especially in the classified environment. Besides SAME, which obviously you all know about, the major industry groups that we deal with are AFCEA of Central Maryland, and that's AFCEA, Armed Forces Communication Electronics Association, and Fort Meade Alliance. I don't mean that as an endorsement of those two groups. They are the two biggest groups in the area. And when we put on our agency events, which I'll talk to in a second, they are generally co-hosted with one of those two groups. The events, we do 3 major events a year. One's classified, one is unclassified, but you have to have a contract with us in order to attend. And the third one, which would be of most interest if you're new to us, is called Business in a Minute. That is basically speed dating. You get to meet with government people for, I think, 1 meeting and up to 4 meetings with prime contractors. And historically, I believe some of those contractors have been in the INL arena. Sort of a new event this year associated with Business in a Minute will be another co-sponsored event with Fort Meade Alliance. And they're going to do a prime contractor speed dating event in the fall. I think it's at the end of October. Again, some INL prime contractors have been invited to participate. Haven't heard if they actually will participate, but it might be worth keeping your eye out for. I believe it's October 27th, but it will only be announced through the ARC. I think a save the date has already gone out through the ARC, but when registration opens, it will be announced through the ARC. Jim talked about capability briefs. The only thing I would add a couple things. One, it's with PEOs, our program executive offices, which is the B support to mission for acquisition needs. They go to them, not to my office. Office of Small Business Programs doesn't need to know your capabilities, right? We give our briefing on how to do business with us to everybody independent, basically, of your capabilities. So please don't send them to me. Number 2 would be capability briefs these days is pretty difficult. With COVID restrictions, nobody's coming in to meet. I think the lockdowns been reinvigorated lately, so I don't think anybody's coming in. And please understand that our virtual capability, even though we are participating in this event today, my office has a fairly unique capability for the agency. We have unclassified space where we can sit. Our PEO folks and mission folks do not have capability to meet with you virtually at their desk because we're in secure spaces and cameras and microphones are not allowed in there. So it's very difficult to do that. It might be better to just submit capability briefs rather than expect to meet with people or phone calls. So it's not doable, but it's tougher. For more information of who to talk to, besides if Jim wants to volunteer his information, that's cool. But in the ARC, there are briefings from each of our PEOs. We post briefing slides from at least our unclassified presentation or event a year, and an unclassified version from our classified briefing. And all of those have contact information. So you can reach out to the PEOs directly and try to meet with them. This is just a, plug for Office of Small Business Programs. We work internally. All Office of Small Business Programs are here to try to ensure maximum practical opportunities for small businesses. We do prime and sub opportunities. And the last two bullets are the ones that really matter. We advocate on behalf of the small business community, not your specific small business. We don't do that. And while Jim can tell you some of his prime companies who are working for him at the moment, my office cannot do that. We're not privy to that information, nor most of that is at least FOUO, so we can't share that publicly, and we don't keep track of who it is. I'd tell you the wrong information anyway. So if you want that information, you got to go through the PEOs. And I think with that, we are prepared for questions. There, just a reminder, go to nsa.gov in the Doing Business With Us tab, and contact information for my office is provided there. And with that, if you have any questions, Sean, be happy to take them.
Sounds good. All right, we'll just start rattling these off. I'm seeing in the chat that some people are losing power and there's tornado warnings, so I just got a tornado warning ourselves, so hopefully we can knock these out. John asked, under the BOS contract, mentioned DOC contract being one of the three components. What is that?
It's so the DOC is a delivery order contract. So it's a vehicle we use to do smaller type projects through the ILS contract, which is our installations and logistics support contract, or which we call our BOSS contract. So it's a DOC contract, basically.
Thank you.
Yep.
Will asked, how do you divide work between competitive, blackjack, and BOS?
Yeah. So one of the things we, excuse me, one thing we do early on in the life of a project is we sit down as a project team and we include our business management group, our Office of Contracting, who is going to let the contract. We decide early on based on size of the project, complexity of the project, maybe the type of the project, of how we're going to solicit this. So a lot of small office interior type projects, we're probably going to dock those. We're going to go through the delivery order contract. Like I said, a lot of the larger projects, infrastructure type projects, as well as like a core renovation, we're probably going to use our blackjack contract. Other projects of different size and complexity, we may compete. If there's a need to a specialty type contractor, we may sole source to a company if there's a unique capability we're looking for. So we kind of discuss these things early on at the life of a project. And the other thing we try to do is spread things out. We try to spread the workload out. We certainly don't want to overwhelm one of our contractors or one mechanism. So we take a look at current work on the plate of all the contractors who we're doing work with, and we try to spread things out. But it's mainly around the complexity size of a project that we're going to make some decisions.
Thank you. Matt asked, does work require cleared personnel? Secret, top secret?
No. So majority of work we do within our fence line does not require the actual workers to be cleared. So we issue red temporary badges to employees who come in from the contractors. Like Scott said, there's a process to get folks in. Coming to work at NSA within the fence line, it's a tough environment. So there's, like Scott said, if you're going to drive a truck in the morning, it's going to take you 30 to 40 minutes to get through the vetting process to bring in a work truck, for example. Employees can work in, they can get their badges at the visitor center, but clearance is not required. Most of the contractors who are doing work in our spaces now are not cleared contractors. We do provide escorts for all the work we're doing. So that's another thing that we coordinate along with the contractor to make sure we provide escorts to meet the contract personnel where we're going to meet. So when we escort them on to site, and then at the end of the day, we escort them off site.
Great, thank you. Does Monica asked, if the Steelcase contract is going out for bid, will it be awarded to multiple contractors in the future or locked around one main player?
So that contract is, I believe, I know it runs out in September of 22. I'm not sure if it's procurement sensitive at this point, but I can only speak of the past contracts. We've had one vendor. So the past two contracts, Steelcase, before Steelcase was American Seating, it was one vendor that we awarded the contract to.
Great. Olivia asked, what are the security requirements for working with NSA? We kind of answered that, but just as a quick refresher.
It's certainly American. You need to be an American citizen, or hold, I guess, your green card to do work within our facilities.
Do they do FBI check? Just come in the truck?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, but U.S. citizenship, green card is definitely required. Part of the contract award, a lot of the information we get from the contract, we require that to come from the contractor to prove of citizenship is required during the award part of the contract.
Great. John asked, during sources sought for the new BOS, possibility of breaking out portions for small business was noted. Where does NSA stand on that?
So that's another one. I know that's sensitive because I believe it's out in the ARC now. I really probably don't want to speak to that. I think if there's any questions, what I would encourage folks to do is to reach out through the ARC to the Office of Contracting to provide the answer to some of those questions.
Great.
Yep.
That's all. Victor asked, when will the FEC contracts be recompeted?
So I believe that's another current contract that's currently being competed. I believe we extended the current contract a little bit. It was originally expiring the end of this calendar year. And that's another one. I think just because of the procurement sensitivity of it, the only thing I would ask is to go into the ARC, see what notifications have been put out there, and get it there. And also you can reach out. There's POCs you can reach out to get some of this information through the ARC. It would come through the Office of Contracting.
Great. Thank you. Randy asked, will the BOS contract be recompeted as an unrestricted acquisition?
That's so again, I think I'm going to have to deflect that question away again. I know it's out there in the ARC. I know it specifies how they're going to solicit. I would just don't want to. I don't want to answer the question just because of the sensitivity of the acquisition that we're currently under. So I encourage folks to go out there and take a look. And again, if the Office of Contracting is the folks that would answer that question.
Makes sense. Thank you. Robin asked, do you have upcoming ICD 705 compliance projects for SCIFs or other physical security support?
Yeah, so a lot of the requirements within our projects are compliant to that. So I would say, yeah, and it's not all the projects, but we do projects, SCIF construction and other unique things that we do that comply to those standards. So I would say the answer is yes, and it's a bunch of projects yearly that we do for sure. But those requirements are in all. We take them into consideration on pretty much all of our projects.
Great. Two more here. Rick asked, when larger business partners with small business, are the requirements for the small business to perform at least 51% of the work?
Scott, that may be a contracting question. I don't know what the FAR.
FAR says 51%.
Yeah, the FAR, but I think it's at the discretion of the CO potentially as well to look at that.
Sometimes it's 15%, right?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. For construction, I thought it was 15. Otherwise, it's 50, and that's still true. Holds true. There are the only nuances to that. There's like you can form a JV, and that changes the rules.
Right.
Because then I think the JV
has to be approved by the
entity has to do 50%, and the small has to do 40% of that.
Right.
So. But in general, yes, a small business set aside requires the small prime to do more than 50%.
And then we have a couple more here. Let's see. Matt just had a comment. Discussion sounds more for the construction or other services phase. Assume the same process for design efforts for AE firms is the same. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, that's a fair comment. The current FEC, the facilities engineering contract that we have, like I talked about, has seven contractors that support that. Yeah, and it's a lot of the same process with the FEC contract. Same thing with the clearances. We typically don't clear too many of the personnel unless there's a need to do that. Some of them we do, but a lot of the workers of the contract are uncleared personnel. Some of them that have the need, we will run the clearances through.
Great. Robin just said, what is the best way to find out, get involved more about ICD 705 projects?
It would again be through the ARC. Anything we do, the eyesight into everything we do is through the ARC. So every project that we work on that we're going to award a contract on goes through the ARC. So that's how you'll see what's coming up and what we're going to award.
So Sean, I would just add the acquisition forecast is updated quarterly in the ARC. If you're interested in the INL portion of that specifically, the PEO that supports that is B9, and the contract office is B39, and the acquisition forecast is arranged by contracting division. So B39's, I think it's always the last one. It's a set of slides and just go, but you gotta be active. I always tell companies, gotta be active. That's a quarterly thing, but when things are coming out, like if a market survey hits, you have like 2 weeks from the day it was announced to get your responses in. So you have to be diligent about being in the ARC and looking all the time. And just because it's in your wheelhouse of capability, don't expect that it'll get sent to you. Expect it won't get sent to you, and you have to find it and respond, and you'll be safe.
Understood. Jason asked, when you say many projects require secret clearance, does that mean all people assigned to, say, design a building would need a secret clearance?
So the majority of the work we do in facilities operations does not require a clearance to the secret level.
Okay. And then I think I missed one more. Don asked, who are the current prime contractors that we can reach out to for subcontracting opportunities? Okay, answer that.
So I can tell you under the Blackjack contract, it's a multi-award IDIQ contract. Amenum is one of the contractors, MC Dean and Mortensen.
Gotcha. Great.
And just by the way, I did not ask that question.
Okay. I thought that didn't look familiar. That was it for the Q&A. Unless anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But it looks like the Q&A is done. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, I just want to thank everyone for at the NSA for presenting. It was a great presentation. Gave us a lot of great information. We will have this recording and the slides on our website. So feel free to look out for that. We do have an upcoming event on September 30th. It's the end of the federal fiscal year celebration at Lost Ark Distillery. So it should be a good one. Love to have everyone come out and celebrate with us. So but if any questions, please direct them to myself or I can be found on the website. And we thank everyone for joining.
Yeah, Sean, if you have any questions, follow up, feel free to send them. We'll get them back to you.
Definitely will. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great one.